Hey, this is the Beer City Bruiser. Crack one open and listen to Wrestling with Ideas.
Welcome inside the CKDJ studios for Wrestling with Ideas here on CKDJ 107.9, Ottawa's new music. I'm Zach McGibbon, and on the line with me, he is a Ring of Honor wrestler. He is the Beer City Bruiser. Bruiser, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to have you on, and I got a lot to talk about, especially with the momentum that Ring of Honor is riding right now. But before we get into that, I want to know, how did you first break into the wrestling business?
I broke in. Actually, I used to goof around with my friends and stuff like that. And I had a really good friend who his neighbor was a professional wrestler. So he introduced me to a guy named Jet Bennett. And he introduced me to a guy named Trevor Adonis in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And he said, hey, if you want to be a wrestler, show up at this little bar. It's called Hog Alley in Delafield. We have a show that day. Show up at noon, and I'll give you like a little 2-hour fantasy camp. And if it's what you want to do, I'll train you. I said, okay. So I showed up at noon. There was a ring set up, got in, started learning everything. And my 2-hour fantasy camp actually turned into a 4.5-hour long one. So I was there till like 4:30, and Trevor's like, all right, you know, you're pretty decent. You kind of get this. So that's how my career started.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you broke into Ring of Honor through the Top Prospect Tournament back in 2015. Who was the person that really vouched for you to come into Ring of Honor and be a part of this Top Prospect Tournament?
I had a couple guys, actually, that were backing me up. Steve Carino was a huge pushing for me to be there. Silas Young, who is now my tag team partner, he was pushing for me to be there. Rhino was with the company at the time. He was pushing for me to be there. And then Kevin Steen was still with the company. He was just about to leave, and he had put his name on me and said, hey, this is a kid that could, you know, fill my spot as I leave or whatever. So I pretty much had a lot of guys pushing for me. And I'd done the tryout camp the October of the year before the Top Prospect Tournament. And so they kind of knew who I was. I did really well in the tryout camp, and they told me that after the tryout camp that I'd be in the Top Prospect Tournament.
Mm-hmm. And how would you find your experience during the Top Prospect Tournament, facing off against different guys like Donovan Dijak, who's now with the WWE, and the contender for the title in Dalton Castle, heading up into a final battle?
It was amazing. The funny story is Dalton actually lost the first round of the Top Prospect Tournament. And here we are, 3-4 years later, and he's actually going for the title at one of the biggest pay-per-views, It was a great experience. I got to wrestle. I had 2 really good matches. I worked Mikey Webb the first round, and then Will Ferrara the second round. Will Ferrara has actually gone to make himself a big name in Ring of Honor, tagging with Rhett Titus as the Dogs. He's finally found his footing and whatnot, and he's making a name for himself. But it was the whole experience was amazing. I mean, you get there, that you're in the tournament, but you don't know anything that's going on, and it was just really cool to see how Ring of Honor TV worked. And it was a lot of fun to start my experience with Ring of Honor and start the learning process of how to put a TV show on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And did you know you were going to be signed by Ring of Honor during that time, or was there a thought that maybe if you impressed, then they would give you a contract, that sort of deal?
I had no idea I was going to get signed out of it. My goal was obviously to get signed. But when you do the Top Prospect Tournament, they don't guarantee you anything. They just guarantee an opportunity. When you do the tryout camp, they don't guarantee you anything. They just guarantee that they'll get you in front of the right people. It's up to you to impress and to do everything you're supposed to do. So going to the Top Prospect, I just wanted to go in and make a lasting impression, so that I was brought back. And just through the hard work that I've been doing, and then the success that Silas and I have had as a tag team, that's how my contract came about.
And as you mentioned the tag team with Silas, when did you first realize that, hey, I'm going to get signed to a contract, and you were going to get to work with Silas Young?
I signed a year ago, or a couple of years ago, actually, and I didn't know. I knew they told us it was July of 2015, I believe it was, in Minnesota, where they walked up and said, "Hey, we need a team to wrestle War Machine tonight, and we're going to put you and Silas together just because we think that would work." And we're like, "Okay, cool." And now Silas and I have known each other for going on 17 years now. We trained in the same area. We went to the independents in the same area. And so when they told us that, you're going to tag together, we're like, okay, cool. Like, we knew each other. But then when we wrestled, when we had that match, it was like chemistry was just there. We flowed real well. We had good chemistry in the ring with each other. The match with War Machine was amazing. In fact, they put it on TV. We filmed it for TV a couple weeks later. It was that good of a match. And it was just, it was amazing, I never factored in, hey, I'm getting signed or anything like that. I was just happy that, hey, we found something for you. This is what we want to do with it. And you guys are so good with each other. We're going to run with it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we're seeing a huge growth in popularity for Ring of Honor right now. They recently had their 3,000 seat show at Supercard of Honor a couple of months ago. When did you really start to notice that Ring of Honor was really starting to hit it big and start get a couple more eyeballs onto the product?
It was at Supercard. We'd been drawing really well in the different buildings we've been going to, selling out the smaller buildings, and they with Supercard, they told all of us, hey, we're trying something new. We're going to go to a bigger building. And then when they told us it was sold out, it was like, okay, there's something going on here. And doing the independents and stuff and meeting all these fans talking about how they don't watch anything but Ring of Honor, you know what I mean? It grew. And after Supercard, we started wrestling in bigger buildings. And not only were we wrestling in these bigger buildings, but we were filling them. We were selling them out. I mean, I think we had like 9 or 10 straight sellouts in a row in bigger buildings. And it was, you could tell, like, we did a loop recently here, a tour where it was San Antonio, Dallas, and Oklahoma. And that whole tour was amazing. The San Antonio crowd was like wrestling in front of a WrestleMania crowd. You couldn't do anything wrong. They were amazing. And it was a completely sold out building. It was as far as you could see were people. And it made you feel really good to be part of the company. It's like, okay, we're doing something right here. Something's clicking right now.
Absolutely. And also a big announcement was made recently by, it was released by Pro Wrestling Sheet, but Cody confirmed it, that there's a plan for a 10,000 seat show being put together by Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, and I believe Marty Scurll is involved as well. Do you know at all if you're going to be involved with that show, or is it just really just in the pre-planning stages right now?
Nobody really knows anything. It's just in the pre-planning stages. I hope that we do it. I think Ring of Honor can fill a 10,000 seat building. Just judging by the crowds that we've been seeing, the people we've been turning away, with the right card put together, I believe we could do it. I give Cody and the Young Bucks awesome props because of the initiative that they're doing. I mean, the Young Bucks are self-made millionaires. They've taken the Young Bucks name and made it a brand. They've taken the Elite and made it a brand where people want to see it, people want to buy it. They got their YouTube channel, which is amazing. They're in Hot Topic now with all the Bullet Club merchandise. So if anybody can pull off a 10,000 seat venue, I'm pretty sure it's the Bullet Club and Ring of Honor.
Absolutely. And also, too, I want to ask you, when Cody was first brought into Ring of Honor, what was the reaction in the locker room like when you heard that Cody Rhodes was going to be involved with Ring of Honor?
A lot of the guys are really excited. You're still really leery when you get a guy coming from up in WWE coming into our locker room, and you don't know how they're going to be. You don't know how they're going to act. But Cody is an amazing person. He is an amazing wrestler, and he's an amazing leader in the locker room. After he came in and he had his first match, he gathered all the guys in the locker room, and we all did we all had a drink together, and he thanked us for allowing him to come into his house. He hopes that we welcome him, and he's been nothing but positive for the company. He is an amazing person. He is a true locker room leader where if you have a question about something, he's easy to approach. and he totally blew any expectations that I had of him coming into the locker room. He is truly a great guy to share the locker room with.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And also, too, just kind of going back to your career right now, where do you see the Beer City Bruiser character going with Ring of Honor, especially with the popularity that Ring of Honor is attaining right now? Where do you see your character down the line? Do you see it coming out of a tag team, maybe kind of going for the television title, or do you like where you're at with the tag team scene and working with Silas?
Well, what I like about Silas and I is we can succeed as singles wrestlers or we can succeed as a tag team. Both our characters can be viewed as individuals, but then when the other comes to help the other out, it makes sense. Silas at Final Battle's going for the television title. I'm going to do everything I can to help him get that title. And it just makes sense for me to be in his corner, and then when I wrestle, because I wrestled Cody, in Oklahoma, it made sense for Silas to be in my corner. And that's the cool thing about our characters. That's the cool thing about our tag team is we're viable contenders for the tag team championships, but we're also viable contenders for any of the singles titles. We don't have to have animosity between each other because one's going for one thing or the other's going for the other. We just support each other. So as far as my character, I'm foresee gold in the future, whether it be singles or tag team. I welcome all challengers.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And take me through just kind of working with Delirious as a booker and just what he's able to put in front of you in terms of building up your character and that sort of deal.
Oh, an amazing mind. He's always thinking of wrestling. He comes up with an idea. He pitches it to you. He works with you. He welcomes other ideas. Truly a great guy to work for. And his mind is amazing. I love watching him work. I love watching him put stuff together and relay it to us. It's so fun to follow his leadership.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And also, too, I do want to bring this up as well. Jim Cornette, of course, former booker at Ring of Honor. He recently, I mentioned, he watched the spot with, I believe it was Daniels going through the flaming table and being kind of critical of it. Is that more of like a shift in terms of Ring of Honor, kind of adding a little bit more edginess to the product, or is it just part of an angle and, don't want to say Cornette was looking too deep into it, but it was just kind of something he saw and wanted to criticize for?
I think it's just something he saw and he wanted to criticize. It was just a spot that happened in a match. The story made sense. If you look at what Daniels and Cody have done to each other over the last year, you know what I mean? It made sense. It wasn't, oh my God, Ring of Honor's going hardcore and all that. I think it was a moment that the two of them wanted to do in their match. It made sense for the story, and I think Cornette's just reading into it just so he can get, more listeners and more, more media.
Absolutely. And just kind of staying on the topic, I don't want to stay too much on it, but since Cornette was at Ring of Honor, and there were still some people from that era that were under Cornette, when they see Cornette kind of attacking the product, do they make mention of, Cornette was here and that sort of stuff, and do they kind of look at him as a negative light, or they just kind of move on from him?
He never gets mentioned, to be honest with you. I was not around for the Cornette days. I do travel with guys that were around there, and no, he's never really mentioned. I very rarely, God, if ever, hear his name in the locker room. We're also focused on the future right now and going forward, and what can we do to continue this momentum that Ring of Honor's got, and that we don't even think about him. You know what I mean? I honestly didn't know he had criticized the Christopher Daniels thing till you had just mentioned it to me. So, okay. As far as the locker room's concerned, no one really mentions him.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. Two quick things. One, is there any bookings that you want to promote? Any future dates that you're going to appear on that you're wrestling for, that sort of deal?
Yeah, this Friday I'm wrestling in Iowa for a company called 3XW. It's in Des Moines, Iowa. We got Ring of Honor's Final Battle coming up at the Hammerstein Ballroom, December 15th. And then the 16th we're in Philadelphia for a TV taping. Hammerstein Ballroom and ECW Arena, the 2300 Arena, are two amazing buildings. If you are a wrestling fan, I suggest going just to see shows in these buildings because they're so historic and just history always happens in these buildings. I got a company that I work for called Bruiser City Wrestling. In January, I'm coming up. They have a War Games match that I'm a part of. It's their anniversary show. That's January 10th in West Dallas, Wisconsin. And then if you're interested in being trained and you're in northern Illinois or southern Wisconsin, come to the Thumper's Den Wrestling Academy. I am a head trainer there.
Oh, wow.
So we're always looking for new students.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much, man, and I wish you the best in Ring of Honor.
All right, thank you.
You have just listened to the greatest wrestling show on the planet.